I know where there's some, right here in the hall, clerk.
No, Molly, not in there. I have enough.
One of these days.
All right, we have the turntable returned to its proper home for the moment. The next time it gets pulled out is when we'll refinish the cabinet so we can clean up inside the cabinet there. Let's turn our attention to the chassis, getting the chassis out of here. We'll take a closer look. Okay, here we are looking directly in to the chassis. Let me move a light so we can see a bit better what's going on up in there. The chassis is mounted in some fashion to the front door, and if I'm correct, this whole thing should tip out like that. So the question is, how is it mounted in there? How can we take it out without dropping it on the floor? That's going to take some looking around. Let's go around and look at the front panel and see if there are any clues there. Okay, here's the front panel. This is fundamentally a wooden cabinet. And I presume there may be some screws underneath this panel holding it up like this. There's nothing in the front, just the lever. I also see on the side here it might be a couple of mounting points, a couple of big Phillips head screws right there. Let me look and see if they're on the other side as well. They are. So that, I suspect, is what's holding it up. There are two screws here, two screws here. To get it out, we'll have to take this off this way, I think. This will have to come back directly toward us. There might be some screws coming in from the back to hold this on. Probably are. So we'll start there. I'll pull the knobs. I'll go around and look and see if there are screws that hold this front panel in place, because I know we have to separate that from the rest of the chassis before we can unscrew the screws on the side. And there are a couple of cables left to be removed as well. Order some new felts. Okay, there are small Phillips screws right there and right there. That hardly seems enough to hold this in place. Although once these push buttons will go out with the chassis when it drops out. I think I'll loosen these and see if anything happens. I don't expect it to. It's just a very tiny little wood screw. Yeah, don't know. It's obviously going into the wooden cabinet. Okay. So let me go around behind and pull the whatever I know some antenna wires, probably a power line. Let's go back there and do that. Okay, let's see if we can see what's in here. Yeah, this has a FM antenna right here, looped around the inside of the cabinet. There's a cable here. It joins this bundle. Oh, that's right. Oh, this is the speaker cable right here. So I'll have to put the speaker. Oh, one of them's already loose. Oh, they're just barely twisted on there. They just pulled off. The wires were just twisted around the lugs on the speaker. So that was unfortunately easy disassembly of the speaker. Right here, oops, is the umbilical that goes to the record player. Take that off, got the speaker loose, power cord here. That's in pretty decent condition. It's not polarized, but wouldn't expect it to be. Okay, it's held on by a screw right there, so I have to take that out. And then, if my head's in the way, excuse me. The chassis, there are a couple of glue blocks right here, and the chassis just sits on those glue blocks. That's probably what holds it up to keep it from just falling out. The two bolts on the side are down in here and over in here. What I was looking for was a plug-in. This wiring harness right up here is for the tone selectors that are on the front panel. I was looking for a way to unplug that, but I'm not spotting it. It'd be handy if that unplugged, but maybe it just all pulls out. So what I think will happen is I'll take these two screws out this side, take one out this side, and we'll see if that acts like it wants to come out. Hopefully it does. And then you won't be able to see the final removal because I'll be filling this entire cavity with myself and my arms to pull that out of there. So let's do that. Okay, this was a bit more complicated than I expected. I don't know, I think some engineer fell down on the job. There should have been these two tone controls on both sides both have cables that run down into the chassis. What they should have done is run down and plug into a connector on the top of the chassis, but they didn't, which means they have to come out with the chassis. That's a bit of a trick because it all goes out that way. And the way they chose to do it was to have these snap in, which is handy. And then there are a couple of screws right up under here that you can take loose, and then the electronics portion of it comes out. You can leave these behind. Peachy keen, except that what I didn't realize is that's the first thing I should have done. So the radio is hanging slightly. I'm going to have to go in back and prop it up, which is fine. But it's hanging slightly from this one. So if you ever happen to do one of these, take the knobs off, unsnap these. They fit up under here. Well, you saw this one come out. They fit up under there, and then just snap down into place with these springs right here. Then unscrew the two screws that hold the spring and the electronics to this plastic plate, and then that assembly will go down through that hole. So I did it slightly backward, but live and learn. So what I'm gonna do is prop the chassis up from behind, loosen the two screws that hold this one in place, and the two screws, take them off, and then I can pull the chassis out the backside. That's the plan. Okay, there were a couple of retaining wires holding these down. So now they're both loose. And I'm going to have to replace all this wiring. So it has an old tired rubber. I turn this in here, it's falling off, chipping away. All right, let's see if I was right. Let's see if this comes off when I take those two screws out. And I was. So now that'll just drop out that way. Okay. Do the same thing on the other side and we'll be ready to pull this out. There we go. All right, I'll pull the chassis out and meet you at the bench. And here we are. Including a large piece of metal. How interesting. Okay, let's see what we got here. It's a black back panel. It has some kind of rubber interface around it that's pretty stiff, but probably still functional. Single dial light, which is interesting. There's one of the tone controls. Treble, alto, and normal, on this side. And on this side it's what? Low bass, bass, and voice. And you can see right there, I hope, bare wire. As I said, these old wire, this old wire harness both these are gonna have to be replaced entirely because they're all falling apart. Let's turn it around. Ooh, sorry. Turn it around. We have a nice big fat power supply or power transformer. This is interesting. Right here it says model 9H985R LP, and that's the cabinet model. And I've never seen a chassis where the cabinet model is stamped onto it like that. So that's kind of interesting. These two plates go on the side through worn out grommets here that are what the screws that I took out of the wooden sides screw to. What else to see? There's the iron core FM tuners. This whole thing will rock back and forth, pulling the cores up out of the coils or pushing them down in there. Nice to see a functioning dial cord for a change. Tube complements all there. That guy and that guy are shielded. And I know this guy is part of the FM stage, which is right here. The FM RF section is right here. Let's take a look underneath. Let's see what we see. Yeah, I think I can lay it down. Like that. Let me reposition the camera. Here's the inside. And the happy news is I don't see any sign of smoke or open flames. This wire right here looks suspiciously bright yellow. It's going to, is it going to there? No. Oh, it's going to up above. What is it? Oh, it's the dial cord, or the dial light wire. I think that's been replaced. Yeah, there's solder resin on there. So I think that dial cord light's been replaced for some reason. Don't know what. But all the caps, all the waxy paper caps are original, it looks to me like. They're all the same color. Same vintage. That one's starting to pop apart right there on both ends. Zenith parts. Here's a Candome resistor, 200 and 1,000, 200 ohms and 1,000. That will have to go. Yeah, the caps are all the right vintage. Can't tell if they're all marked Zenith. Yes, that one is. This one's popping apart too. So all these waxy paper caps will be replaced. But gosh, it looks really good otherwise. Yeah, I don't see anything that makes me terribly nervous. And having said that, I'll be nervous by the time I'm done, I'm sure. Yeah, you can see right here maybe that rubber insulation is cracked off, bare wire running through here. Pretty grim stuff. Stuff just didn't hold up for 70 years the way it was supposed to. Okay, I think we're done for this episode. This is the Zenith 9H 21 inside a 9H985 RLP cabinet. And next time I will probably have done all the resistance checks